Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today we're going to be looking at what breakthrough is coming for you. So that in itself suggests there's some sort of block or issue or challenge that you've been dealing with. It could have been very short term and sudden and unexpected, or it could have been something you've been dealing with over a long period of time. But either way, this is about where a breakthrough is coming in. It might also be a breakthrough of some sort of challenge or block that you even weren't 100% aware of, or you just took for granted, and now you can realize that you can release and have more energy in an area. So we'll just see what happens. So we will be looking at the nature of the block itself, the nature of the breakthrough, and the area of life that this most touches upon at the beginning of the reading, and then building from there. As I often do with this, when there's a kind of broad issue, I have 3 different tarot decks to help with the choice. So that tarot deck is the one I'll use in each of the readings. And I've kind of gone deliberately for ones with sort of like slightly esoteric or interesting sort of depictions to kind of take us into an area where we kind of break the mold of reality and we think outside the box and all that kind of thing, which helps with breakthroughs. But at the end of the reading, I'm going to do something a little bit different. Normally I use a card to kind of bring it all together. I'm going to use that concept, but I'm going to use it a bit differently. I'm actually going to ask you, and I will do it again in the reading in case you haven't listened to the introduction, but I'm going to ask you to think of a number between 1 and 5. Because, I mean, I can't do thousands of sort of things in the end for each individual, but I can like break it down a bit more because this is a collective reading. So for everybody who chooses card, number 4, they'll get card 4 of 5 tarot cards from another deck I'm going to lay out, and I'm going to talk through each of them. So if you chose 1, this is what it is, 2, and so forth, so that we just personalize a little bit more. So I'm just experimenting with that. And if people think it worked really well, let me know. I might do it more often. If it really didn't add much, let me know as well too. I can take the criticism. I'm just experimenting with something to see if it like personalizes it just a little bit more and makes the sort of bringing it all together and synergy at the end a little bit more powerful for you. So anyway, that's basically all I really need to say, apart from going through the choice. So for pile number 1, what I did was I shuffled the deck and then said the first major arcana that I dealt out would give us an idea about the nature of the breakthrough or the area of the breakthrough that will help you choose. So for pile number 1, we have the Dark Mansions Tarot with the Moon. For pile number 2, we have the Mr. Real Tarot with the Wheel of Fortune. And for pile number 3, we have the Mystic Maiden's Love Tarot with the Tower. That one's going to be big. I mean, they're probably all going to be big, actually. We've got some pretty powerful cards there in terms of the major arcana. But you go for whatever works for you. You can go to more than one if you like. There might be more than one breakthrough and more than one area that is a breakthrough in your life. So that's all fine as well. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you came to the Moon with the Dark Mansions. The very fact that you chose the Dark Mansions Tarot, if it was sort of like a conscious choice or even like an energetic one, is interesting anyway with some of the energy I see here, because I see the Dark Mansions Tarot as very gothic, it's very Tim Burton-esque, and I feel like it's one that has to do with the way that we interact with each other in polite society or in workplaces or in friendship groups or socially. I feel like there's a lot about the undercurrents of psychology in this deck and what is sort of hidden. And like that's partly what this is about anyway. The fact that the Moon card is the one that drew you, there's something here that's hidden. So there's something that you need to uncover in yourself or in a situation to have this breakthrough. What these 2 cards from the deck were, and they were also sitting under there, I just didn't know what they were. This is a little bit about the block, and this is about the breakthrough. So just on its own, I would say the block around this is competition, and whether you feel ready to do something. So whether you feel ready for some sort of competition contest, going for a new job, like trying to win something, like in love, in life, in whatever it is. There's sort of like, am I ready for that? Am I strong enough for that? And this suggests that you are, but the block at the moment is not being sure about that because it's coming out as a block. So the 7 of Wands working that way. And I think some of it probably has to do with an unknown quantity or quality of the competition in whatever way this is. So that's one of the reasons. It's sort of like a lot of it is hidden. And so it's a bit hard for you to make that assessment. So it's like, do I try or don't I try? Actually, it makes me think you're probably very strategic. They sort of say in things like Sun Tzu, Art of War, that the good general or whatever doesn't go into a battle until they know they can win. So you have a little bit of that energy around you, but the breakthrough is to understand this is your path, and that you are meant to shine, you are meant to win, you are meant to be seen with the star. Because if you think about it, we go from the moon, which reflects the light of others, so reflects the light of the sun, to the star, which has its own light. I think there's something here in whatever aspect of life this is. This is a breakthrough for you to follow your path and to be seen and to know that you can win in something, even if you're not sure about what's going on. And it may be that part of the breakthrough with the star, with the light that you can shine there, is that you actually uncover what you need to make this assessment. Now, the question is, what area of life is it in? Now, I'm using the Akashic Truth Oracle, and that has 6 areas of life. So this will tell us where this sort of competition or issue is. I didn't put it under the thing because it could be the same area in a couple of the readings in the picker pile. So that's why I'm doing that at this point. So we're just going to see what area of life it's in. Money and investments. Okay, so this is how you make your money, how you grow. And like there's something here. You're meant to have a really good investment, a really good sort of monetary outcome. Could play out in career, though there is sort of something that is about sort of business and career in this. So it's probably more how you use what you have to level up. So kind of makes sense in a way, because when you're talking about money and investments, there often is a little bit shrouded and hidden, and it's a bit hard to know exactly what is going to sort of come into the light, so to speak. And is it a good or positive sort of thing that you're thinking about doing with your money to grow that? This is suggesting it is, and that you're very much on the right path. But let's get a piece of advice from the Akashic Truth Oracle just as a starting point to give us a bit of a feeling, and it might give us a little bit more of an idea about why there's this worry. There's this is this competitive? Can I get a competitive outcome? Am I competitive in this? Do I really know what I'm doing, to do well when I'm using my money and so forth, to shine? Deception. Oh, okay. All right. So that's interesting with the moon. You're not seeing the entire picture of a person or situation. It may be purposefully withheld from you, or you may be choosing to look the other way or betray yourself in some way. It's time to gain clarity. So the clarity, I think, is going to connect to shining your light on something and really kind of looking into it. But I think part of it is to know it's someone who there's probably a competition with, or if you were looking at competing sort of products financially, it's probably, like needing to find out more because some of it isn't as good as it seems. Or someone might be trying to make out that they're much better at all of the sort of stuff than you. And in fact, you have more ability, but you need to shine light on it. Whatever it is, there is part of this breakthrough is realizing the deception, realizing the block that you're worried about not being good enough is in fact you are, and shining your own light on it. So there's somebody or something that's not quite what it appears, but you can find your way through it. That's what this is about. So when we've got that clarity, let's get a little bit more on the obstacle. Why does it feel like a competition? Why does it feel like you're not sure if you're ready when this is around money and investments, and where something isn't what it appears? We have the 8 of Swords reversed, the Ace of Wands, Queen of Pentacles reversed. Okay. Sorry, the cards are sliding all over the place. The Devil, King of Swords. Okay, yeah, there's definitely someone who's not being honest. So if you suspect someone is kind of gaslighting you, or someone is trying to lord it over you, or someone is telling you you're not ready for something, or someone is trying to sell you something, then you're right. Like, you're right about that. Don't second guess yourself. There is someone, and it seems to be associated with sort of the powers of the world, the money, the money of the world. It's a power play. This whatever is going on is a power play. And it's saying, it's interesting that either side is telling us the block and the way to get out of it, because the block is getting caught in the deception and listening to the other person and not understanding you're ready to compete and move up a level. And the answer is kind of releasing yourself from mental gymnastics that are happening. there is a lot of potential in something that you want to do. Now, it may be, as I say, if this is partly like working out what to invest in, there's a lot of potential for you in investing. It is part of what you're meant to do. You're meant to make money. You're meant to be abundant. That is meant to happen. But you are, because you're in that kind of world and you're dealing with that kind of thing, you have to be careful because not everybody's honest. So you have to have a kind of very open mind to explore things in detail before you commit. So this is saying, like, what is in fact part of the block is a help for you in this situation because it's stopping you from committing until you know more. There is an energy that you want to do something and it's frustrating, but you're not going to commit till you know more. And I think that's a good thing. But it is saying that you can investigate this, you can get more information. Don't listen to people saying you can't get more information or, it's not sort of something you would understand. So, and if like if somebody, is asking you to invest with them or something like that, and you're just not sure, are you going to get yourself into some big competition with that person? Your instincts are probably right about that because there's just something not quite right. Doesn't necessarily mean the person's deliberately being dishonest, though with the King of Swords reversed, more often than not that is the case. But, there can be people who are dishonest with themselves. They're fooling themselves. Oh, I've got this great get rich quick scheme. Come and do it with me. And you're kind of thinking, I'm not sure if we're ready and if this is going to work. You're going to have more clarity than the other person if that's the case. So let's see a little bit more about how you get the star energy, how you actually get the breakthrough and the clarity. You are going to get that. This is what this is about. The breakthrough is going to come. So you will find your way through this, pile one. We have 10 of Pentacles reversed, the World, 2 of Pentacles reversed, the Empress, the 10 of Cups. Okay, all right. So it's a kind of a different complexion to it, or an additional one that might apply for some. So I'm just going to say it doesn't have to apply for everybody. For some of you, this may have to do with making a decision. It might actually have a secondary issue about a relationship. Like it's sort of like like for instance, oh, we're going to get married, but we have a prenup or not, that kind of thing. So there appears to be something when we've got the 10 of Pentacles reversed and the 10 of Cups. The breakthrough, I think, is closing out on old things, whether it's old investments, old patterns, and old trust that you maybe had that you shouldn't have had, that took away the choice from you to make the choices yourself and be happier. That's one way that it could be. It could be you've got a bad financial advisor, you've got a bad friend who's telling you what to do, you've got something like that. But there is also a possibility of part of what you need to do is really, really almost forensically look at, if this is around a relationship, what is the material back? It doesn't mean like, is this person rich enough to be with? It's more how responsible are they around money? So, it could be if it's kind of like, I want to kind of like marry this person, or we're going to move in together, or we're going to buy a house together or something. It's kind of like you do need to do your due diligence and this would be where the person's not necessarily being deliberately dishonest, but they just may not be that honest with themselves. And I think some of you may come from family backgrounds where money wasn't well managed. And this may also be the thing if you are feeling you're lacking the confidence, like the fact that you're looking at it, you're asking all the right questions. So you need to understand that. And I think if that's the case, you can't do anything. It's saying, understanding you can't do anything about your history and like what you come from or family or whatever, but you can establish abundance yourself and create something happier. So I do think that this is kind of like it's about money at the moment and a breakthrough and understanding your ability in that area. And there could be deception, known or unconscious, associated with it. But I also think it's about patterning from families and from your family background and so forth as well. And could connect into making a commitment emotionally and what that means financially. But whatever it is saying that once you realize the past factors in this were not under your control at all, and you can now take control as you follow your path, you can end up in a lot happier position. So this is about independence. This is really a very 7 of Wands thing. It's like being prepared to stand up on your own and like go into battle for yourself, understanding that you're ready for that. That's the clarity you need, and then you just apply that clarity to everything you're looking at. So what will most surprise you when this really kind of clicks and the release and the breakthrough happens? What will most surprise you? Judgment reversed, the Fool, the Page of Pentacles, the Page of Wands. Okay. All right. So I think the reason it's come up as money, and I think there is a money thing about this, and I would presume, like, if you wouldn't have stayed this long in this particular reading if that didn't resonate, you'd have probably tried another one of them or whatever. But I think it connects to other things. I think this connects to a lot of stuff from family, past relationships or whatever. It's like you'll start to understand how much you took in the judgments of others and how much that limited you. That you're much more ready to go and do something new and that there's a freedom in like taking that step and sort of well-assessed risk management is good. You actually have a very good head for money. Like you really do. Once you really start to go, okay, I get it. There's a kind of a creative inspiration and there's a kind of a joy in it. And this could actually be the sort of reading for someone who becomes something like a financial advisor. Once you actually start doing it, looking into it and researching it, and it may actually take you in your direction. You're probably here to make money for yourself and potentially for others. That's probably part of your life path, actually, in whatever it is you do. And for some of you, it might be a very creative thing, like with the star. It could be that, you do something performative with it, but you've got a really good business brain. And it's the judgments of others. Their judgment has either been bad about this stuff if it was unconscious, or it was too censorious and not very realistic. It's like the amount that the judgment that you'd had on you hid the truth of who you were is going to be surprising. And then like how well prepared you are to do something different is going to surprise you. So that's really lovely. So we're going to look at some healing. I thought with these there'd be some healing, focus and empowerment. I wanted to get a couple of areas that there is healing, focus and empowerment for you with this breakthrough. So the first area of healing is self-image. Well, that makes sense. Like this is all about you understanding the power that you have, even like the coloring similar. Like it's like the breakthrough and understanding who you are compared to others. And as I say, some people, there could be some deliberate gaslighting around this, but I think for most it's just families that have viewpoints and bosses that have viewpoints and friends that have viewpoints, and none of them are very accurate. You're actually much better prepared to deal with this than the people who are judging you. The second area of healing around this is voice, bringing your voice out. And again, like some of you, it could be around performance. It could be making money. Like it could be, if you are some sort of a performer and people have said, oh, you can't work with that. You can't make money with that. The reality is you're meant to be a star, and yes, you can. Let's see the focus around the self-image that is helpful. Renovation. Okay, I think that's really more like kind of like, how do you want to renovate your own self-image? Who do you want to be? What do you build? What do you, and like, how do you present yourself going forward? And again, it's like you taking the decision. What would you change of what was already established to heal that energy? And around the voice, listening. Okay, so maybe listening for the responses, like having the conversations and then listening very carefully, asking the right questions and listening very carefully. All of this will really help you. And a message of empowerment around self-image. When you understand there is no such thing as death, you can drop all fears. Yeah, there's something about risk management here for you. Like you realize actually how well attuned you are and how prepared you are to take greater risks. And also the empowerment message around your voice. Have compassion towards others who may see the world through a different lens of experience. So I think what this is saying is that for most of you, this is not a deliberate thing. People are coming from their own fears, their own views, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, some, like don't have compassion for someone if they deliberately lie, but if they aren't, then you understand it and having a better conversation and really finding out what's going on. Even if you realize in the end you are actually above these people, you can have compassion for them. And all of this is grist to your mill. All of this makes you know what you can do. Okay, so let's get you a couple of guides, couple of animal spirit guides for you in the breakthrough for what else we can understand about it. Eagle, flying high with the spirit. Yeah, getting above everything, getting that eagle-eye view, the new idea, like the sword there. There's something quite powerful and quite precise and focused. So I think eagle will particularly help you around the focusing area. And cat, independence, yeah. Yeah. This is about you becoming independent from old ways of thinking, old viewpoints, that kind of thing. Let's get you a sign that might tell you you're on the verge of this. So this could turn up in dreams. It could turn up in sort of synchronicities around you. You could sort of see someone with a T-shirt with a picture of something like this on it. You could see an advert that talks about something like this. Or it could just be the feelings that the card talks about. But this is just meant to sort of give you a sense that you're getting close to having sort of like made the changes and listened enough, I think, to really be able to make the breakthrough occur. Video game, skills, abilities, problem-solving, tests, challenges. Okay, so there's a couple of things on that. Number one, you might sort of see ads for video games. They might pop up in your feed. You might dream about playing a video game. You might get to the point of seeing this a bit like a video game, like who are the characters, what's going on, and start to understand it on that level, almost virtually. That, I think, is there. But I think also it's talking about skills, abilities, problem solving and so forth. It may be that almost game theory and like playing it out as a game in your head, looking at it that way, helps you get the different perspectives and helps you sort of separate out from other people's views and get into your own problem solving. So I think it's also partly a bit of an idea about how to achieve what you want to achieve. Let's get a couple of planetary pairings to help you as well. Firstly, we have Jupiter and Jupiter. Yeah, you're meant to make money. You are definitely meant to make money, whether it is, as I say, as a star in some ways, being so talented in something that you do that you stand out and you rise above the competition and it has a direct monetary outcome for you, or you're just meant to be really good at making money, like really good at making money. And we have Moon and Saturn, which, if you want to really, like unlock and get the breakthrough of a double Jupiter, you need to be able to understand the emotional impact of your history and bring that into balance and see it for what it is. So there's a lot about what you've been told about yourself versus what you actually are. That's the real message of this, but it's playing out somewhere around you making money, being successful, being a star at what you do. Okay, so as I said, in the introduction, and you may not have heard it if you don't listen to introductions, I'm doing a slightly different ending to this. Normally I'll get a deck that I feel brings it all together. And I'm kind of doing it to bring it all together. It's just a last message that brings this together. But because it's a collective reading, I sort of thought I might nuance it to allow for different groups within the collective reading, sort of just to make it just that little bit more personal. So what I sort of said in the introduction is have in mind a number between 1 and 5. If you didn't hear that, then think of that now. Pause if you have to and choose a number between 1 and 5, because I'm going to now deal out 5 cards from another tarot deck. And I'm going to say for those who chose number 1, this is the message for the first card, and 3 for the third, and so forth. That's how we're going to do it. So pause if you need to. And I'm just going to deal out the cards now. So for those who chose number 1, we have Page of Cups. For those who chose number 2, we have 2 of Wands. For those who chose number 3, we have the King of Cups reversed. For those who chose 4, we have the Tower. And for those who chose 5, we have the Ace of Pentacles. So the closing message for those who chose 1 is that we had the Page of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. You're already very good with money and with your creativity. The thing to bring this into alignment with is, what does your heart want? And I think there's a healing energy to your heart here, that particularly if you resonate to the concept that family sort of like viewpoints or whatever had a lot to do with how you saw yourself in this situation. Sorry, I'm just moving those up so they're a bit clearer. The fact that the Page of Cups here is playing a violin as well too makes me feel a couple of things. One is that there's a message about voice, music, all of those kind of things. Maybe look to that as being inspirational and connecting you to your clarity. The other one is, it's said before, have compassion, and I think it is important to have compassion. And it is also understanding what you've come from, but don't get clogged up with that. I'm sort of thinking about people, they play the violin and kind of like, oh, isn't it sad? It's like, don't just sort of get into sadness of what the blocks might have been. Get into the sort of freedom energy of the fish here to let it go. So there's an emotional part of this that you need to link in. You need to feel emotionally connected to what you're doing materially to really make the most of it. For those who chose pile 2, there's a creative choice around this. So it is a very, not pile 2, number 2. There's a very, very creative side of this in some way. So there's something about creative inspiration, and I think also about visualization. I think that you can really understand your pathway and what your light is by using sort of visual techniques like meditation, shamanic journeying, anything where you see something. So use that as part of your barometer. You have a very, I would say, very high clairvoyant visual spiritual gifts energy that will help you. For those who chose number 3, King of Cups reversed, there's something deeply healing in this, and you may actually find that you heal others. So it's not just going to be for you, but you heal some of the relationships and so forth, or just you start to have an approach that helps other people heal emotional issues they have, particularly around money. For those who chose number 4, this is very big. It may be that what triggers this is some big collapse of something, like losing a job, like an investment that fails. It makes you have to recalibrate. It could be others around you dealing with a crisis, and you are finding it. Then you step up and you find the way to do it. I never feel the Tower is anything to worry about. It's like you just go with that energy. The breakthrough is necessary, and the Tower coming up in a breakthrough reading is always going to be a positive thing. I think there's a clue in the way that it's portrayed here, in that the Tower is actually being surrounded by water. So there's a lot of emotional energy in this. There's a bit of a similarity between those who chose 1 and 4 here. There's an emotional underpinning that you need to be aware of, and that makes things more secure. And I also feel like you can sort of see what looks like kind of growth, that's sort of built and grown over the Tower. There's a sort of a sense of some of the history of this got overgrown, like understanding where things were overgrown and understanding the emotional underpinning is going to really help you with it. And for those who chose number 5, the thing that brings this together is there is a really good investment, a really good business opportunity, a really good job that is just waiting to be found. And when you start to understand your skill here, that's when you'll find it. So there's a true blessing coming to you, but you have to recognize it to bring it in. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 1. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So you can do the reading with the Wheel of Fortune from the Mysterial Tarot. I feel the Mysterial Tarot is a very sort of looks alien landscape, sort of fantasy landscape, very mysterious sort of deck, very beautiful, but very mysterious. So I feel like there's sort of something here, particularly when you came to the Wheel of Fortune, around the mysteries of fate and timing and how to get something right. And I think when I look at this, which is the block, and this, which is the breakthrough, which were under the Wheel of Fortune, but I just intuitively chose, I didn't know what they were. When I look at that, there's something here about understanding that where you don't trust your instincts about timing, and where you maybe artificially slow yourself down, or you do that through fear, which is the Knight of Swords reversed, that actually creates, it's like this isn't, the breakthrough isn't to 5 of Pentacles, isn't to being alone or having monetary problems. It's actually understanding, it's getting the fact that whatever this is, being alone, feeling isolated, feeling sort of physically not at full form, or financial issues, whatever the thing is, it's understanding the causality of that, and that the breakthrough is kind of either seeing the patterns so that you can predict it a bit better, or understanding that too much caution there doesn't make any difference. The wheel is going to turn the way it turns. So it's a kind of understanding of something bigger than yourself and bigger than any of us in terms of life. So let's get an idea of what area of life this is in, because the 5 of Pentacles can be very personal or it can be very material. So we'll get an idea of that using the Akashic Truth Oracle. that has 6 areas of life. So I'm just shuffling to see which one. And then we'll just get the first piece of advice around that from the Akashic Truth Oracle, and then we'll start to look at this in more detail with the tarot. So what area of life do you kind of slow yourself down rather than just because you're trying to kind of understand and manage and control the timing of fate, and that, like normally when you do this, you slow down too much and that actually has the opposite effect. Like, where is this happening? Where are you putting a spoke in the wheels yourself in a way that isn't working for you? And understanding that becomes the breakthrough. Romance and partnerships. So this is more about being alone. All right. So this is saying probably that you are looking for a fated connection at the right time in the right place, but you have a tendency to slow down and not, even when there's a potential of it there, to slow down and not move forward. Like it's got to make sense to you before you do anything, and the risk around that is that you don't ever just take the risk to do something, and so you end up feeling alone or feeling isolated. So this is about a breakthrough of understanding your own concept around love, I think. Or around, other sorts of partnerships, friendships and so forth. But I think for most of this sort of thing, we don't, when it comes to other partnerships, get sort of so worried about whether this is a destined one that we just stop. So there could be a kind of energy of like, you just need to be a bit more experimental and let things, unravel the way they're going to unravel and see whether it works out or not, rather than thinking there has to be all these great signs or whatever. So there's something like that going on. So let's just get the advice from the Akashic Truth Oracle too, just to get a little bit more of an idea about where is delaying things and slowing things down becoming a block that creates the outcome you don't want. That's what that is really saying. The breakthrough is to understand this. So the advice from the Akashic Truth Oracle is enabling. There is someone you're helping, or are you? In reality, you may be enabling them to continue in negative patterns and never take full responsibility for themselves. Step back and let things play out. Okay, that gives us a secondary level to this. And I think it is secondary. It could be either of these, or it could be a bit of both. You may know in a very close relationship that it's time for somebody to get their act together, but you may be holding back because you think you won't be heard. And if you don't keep enabling them, you might be on your own. And there might be, like, the breakthrough is thinking at the end of the day, both for my caring for that person and for myself, I have to risk that. So that could be going on if it's someone else, or if you're seeing someone else doing this, but there's sort of a sense of worry about raising it. That's what it feels like, worry about raising it if it's about another person. Otherwise, who you're enabling is yourself. So it's going to depend on who comes to the reading, but it's kind of, understanding the impact of this. I want the universe to provide, so I'm just going to wait till it provides the perfect thing, means that you're alone. Whether it's somebody else who's doing that and does behaviours like that, or whether it's you, that's the breakthrough, is to understand that. See, because there's a lot of stuff, people go like divine counterparts, twin souls, all of this thing, could very well be true for some people, but it's not necessarily always going to be that. And it doesn't mean that every relationship has to be like that. But if you've got some sort of fixed idea in your head about what something has to be like, then you could wait your whole lifetime to see that and miss all the opportunities. So I think there's something like that going on. So we're going to firstly, with the tarot, ask a little bit more about this block where everything slows down. It's just slowing things down rather than... And it's like to overthink it. It's like, they say analysis paralysis, that kind of energy. So a little bit more about how that's playing out and how it leads to the breakthrough of understanding for you. Also, it could be, the other thing I'm getting around this could be that you're in a relationship where you actually need to leave it and you're just slowing down. So that's the other possibility with this. Anyway, let's see. We might get more clarity about whether it's you or another person, what's actually going on with this when we see a bit more about the block. Why are things being slowed down and overthought? We have the Three of Cups upright. We have the Knight of Pentacles. We have the Death card reversed. We have the Two of Swords reversed. Yeah, you don't want to make a decision. And the Five of Swords. Yeah. This is about the breakthrough you need is to understand that the Wheel of Fortune is going to turn however it's going to turn. You can't overthink it and control it through thinking. You can't keep delaying decisions because you kind of end up always in the less ideal situation when you do that. It's saying that if you are dedicated to what you really want in terms of enjoyment. So if you're with someone who's doing this, are you feeling dedicated and happy in that relationship, in which case you need to get them to see this. If you're not, maybe you need to move on, because there's a moving on energy with the Five of Swords. So we've got the Five of Pentacles and the Five of Swords. So that's a possibility. If this is about you and finding love, then your concept, there's nothing really wrong with your concept of love, because you see something that is enjoyable and dedicated, but making the decision about whether you found the person or whether this is the one, you just don't want to make that decision. And what you tend to do is walk away. So this is about you understanding a pattern. The breakthrough is understanding the pattern. It's a really useful pattern to understand, because in a way, I think with the Wheel of Fortune coming up, it probably suggests that for you, there probably is someone you're meant to meet, but like you're not going to know that unless you experiment a bit, unless you actually get to know people a bit better, and give people a chance. Because sometimes we don't understand the destined connection with someone until we've got to know them quite well. And instead of analysing everything to death and just not committing, there is an impetus to commit that the mind is stopping. So, and then as I say, the walking away. When you see that pattern, you'll understand the block. The mind, you're overthinking this. Either overthinking the enabling behaviour, or you're seeing someone overthink in a relationship, or you're doing it yourself. So let's learn a little bit more about the breakthrough, because as I say, I mean, that doesn't look, you might think, oh, Five of Pentacles, what breakthrough is that? But that's understanding the pattern, I think. So let's just see what we get. What kind of understanding is going to be a real breakthrough for you? The Magician, the Queen of Swords. Oh boy, your mind is sharp, but like, gee, you live in it. Judgment, the Three of Pentacles, the Eight of Wands reversed. Yeah, the breakthrough is done. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, Queen of Swords there, the Magician there, you guys are brilliant. You really are. Like, you're very talented, you're very smart, your mind is off the charts. And so it's very natural for you to go in and analyze things, because normally that works extremely well for you. And normally your judgment is on point. Like in most areas in your life, it absolutely is on point. But there is a perfectionist energy in that as well. Because in most areas of life, we can influence things. You know, if we are analysing material things, we can make decisions to influence that. If we are looking at what we believe, we can do that. If we're looking at what action we want to take, we can like use a very sharp mind to harness all our skills and to navigate us. But when we're in the realm of emotion, and I think this is, you know, it's saying it's about love and partnerships, it can get too much. As I say, we can overthink and we can be such a perfectionist. Like, I'm going to manifest the person that I want. And the mind's really strong. But it's like it takes you into a judgmental thing. Like, it just automatically does. Because it's almost like then everybody that you meet, you're kind of almost assessing, will they meet a criteria? It's like you have a list. And if that list isn't met, then it doesn't work out. It's actually saying here, work on friendship first. Don't try and make anybody that comes in, even if you sense they might be your destined one, into that. Like, don't try and see if they fit and then decide if they don't. It's more, make them a friend first, because when you do that, you won't be alone. You'll have a friend, whatever happens. And if something more happens, it happens. And it's like the slowing of yourself down is working in a way that works for you, because the slowing down in the mind is putting too much pressure on this. Whereas the slowing down to just be friends and ground it and see what it's going to be is good. It kind of means that the Eight of Wands there could turn around. You could start to move forward if it is the one. But yeah, it's like, as I say, it's a product of the fact that you have a brilliant mind. But you know, a brilliant mind can be its own problem sometimes. So let's see what will be most surprising when you get this release, this victory. You know, you've understood the pattern. You know what you need to do. Because that's the other thing. Because you are so smart, when this clicks, it'll click. It just hasn't yet. You kind of your mind is you're using your mind against yourself. So when this clicks, you're really going to do it, and you'll concentrate on friendships and connect, and then you'll find the one, because I think you are meant to with the Wheel of Fortune there. So you're not really wrong about that. It's just the way you're going about it. It kind of cruels your pitch, so to speak. So what's going to be surprising? Five of Wands, the Queen of Wands reversed, the Two of Wands. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to read. And the King of Pentacles. Okay. Is that 2 of Wands or 5? No, it's 2. Sorry. It's a little bit hard to read the writing. Because we've got the 5 there. Okay. So what you're going to find surprising about this is how much your own indecision and the inner conflict that you've created has dimmed your own light. So it's sort of like, even if you'd met the one, if you were so busy in that space, you probably would have felt distant or cold or analytical, or even indecisive. Like, you are a very powerful person. You shouldn't have this conflict about who you are or feeling good enough or whatever. In fact, there might be a kind of a compensation thing operating. Is you might actually find that some of this, where you get very judgmental on do they fit, is a way to protect your own ego, and you'll understand that. But you don't need to. It's like, once you concentrate on the friendship, because you are so smart, the rest will work itself out. But I think you'll realize how this has affected your ego, and you'll claim back the choice again. Like, instead of feeling like you don't really have a choice, like, because that's the other thing about, Wheel of Fortune and about, destined loves and everything, is it actually takes the choice away. So I think it's sort of saying you do actually have a choice. Like, even if there's an opportunity in this life to meet your sort of soul twin or whatever, you have the choice. You might choose to be with someone else. So you're reclaiming the choice actually brings the outcome that you want. King of Pentacles is not necessarily about gender or what your gender preferences are or what gender you identify with. It's just the stable, committed relationship has to be your choice. So putting too much on this must be destined is actually not helping you either. It's actually taking away some of your power. So there's a kind of a real aha moment coming about. I just think that probably many of the people here, if you're resonating with this in general, have kind of got drawn into that, I meant to meet my twin flame or my soul twin or whatever, and that may well be true, but it can really make it difficult to find that, and it really does take away the choice, and we are meant to have free will. Okay, so let's have a look then at what healing and focus and empowerment will help with this. So we're going to do 2 of each. So 2 areas where this breakthrough is going to be healing for you. The first is illusions. Breaking through the illusions. I do think you do have to be very careful with the fated one type of thing. I mean, that energy can be there, but I would generally not go looking for it. It would just be if you've met someone and you feel that, and all this other stuff like friendship was there, then you can maybe test out whether that's the case. But like, starting from the point of that's what I'm looking for is going to potentially lead you into a number of false positives, if that makes sense. The other area of healing around this is sadness. The sadness, because if you are, you always kind of end up, well, that didn't work out. That feels sad. When am I going to meet my one and everything? I think, like, it's like, when am I going to meet someone who's a really good friend that then maybe it turns into something more, but focus on that to start with. So talking about focus, focus will help you around the illusions? Organizing. Okay, so instead of using this amazing mind that you have to set up, like spreadsheets of criteria to see whether it's the one or however it operates, and I'm being a little bit broad in what I say there, but just using it as an example, it's like organizing your mind. That's also a very 3 of Pentacles thing. Like, maybe put in the top shelf what you ultimately are aiming for, but look at the way there through the different shelves. Like, you start with friendships or whatever, eventually things get to a top shelf because they're the best friend forever, they're the love of your life or whatever it is. Thinking about that rather than, does this person fit all these criteria? It's more, what's the whole package, and where would I place them or organize them in my life, will help you break through the illusions. What about focus to help you break through sadness? Career. Okay, so focus a bit on your career as well. Like, maybe it's in your work that you're likely to find your person, and that fits a bit with the 3 of Pentacles. It's like collaborating with people, thinking about those sort of things might actually help you. And again, use your mind in a really positive way. A message of empowerment about the illusions that you need to heal from. There is no one like you anywhere in the omniverse. Now, okay, so this is the thing, that you've actually given up some of your power and some of who you really are to some almost external thing. But the thing is that, like, when your one comes along, it'll happen naturally and you wouldn't need to sort of check it or whatever, because you're very unique and so are they. It's also, I think, a sign that you can't have a checklist for this. All you can have is broad categories of what you do and don't like. That's about it, because as there's no one like you, like, how would somebody make the checklist for you? Because the minute you've got a checklist, it suggests, like a multitude, and there's actually understanding and reclaiming back your rights around this. It's really important. And then around getting past the sadness, don't underestimate your ability to solve this problem. You don't, because your mind's amazing. Like, if you start making it work for you rather than pulling you in a direction that's not helpful, the sky's the limit, pile two. Okay, so let's get you some spirit guides. Get some animal spirit guides to help and see what else we can learn about this breakthrough. Spider, endless opportunities. Yeah, look, there's lots of opportunities. And a spider builds a web, if you think about it, a spider builds a web over time, and they look at what is actually around and they work as what is going to work best. And it is a kind of very organizational thing. It's like, use your networks, use your career, use all of that kind of thing. But look at it at kind of just a very functional level before you put all this extra weight on it. Because if there's too much weight on a spider web, it'll fall apart. And parrot, communication, talking with people, having fun. You live a lot in your head, but you may not be communicating what you want as well too. So that's important. Parrot might help you to communicate in a way to be able to discern the friends that could become more and that kind of thing. Okay, so we're also going to look at a sign, synchronicity, feeling that could be there when the aha moment's really coming through, and it's really sort of like hitting its mark. You really are getting it, and you can then start to use that, and your mind then starts to work for you. So this could be a synchronicity, so it could turn up in dreams. It could just be the feelings that it talks about, but we just want to sort of see something to just keep an eye out for. Okay, so back, unseen, subconscious, burden, responsibility, strength, stability. Okay, so there's a few things here. One is that this is I think when you see the back and you see the spine and strength, stability, this is a very, understanding your own strength and your own spine and your capacity to stand tall is really, really important. When you feel that, when you're getting your choice back, that's important. But I think a lot of this is just saying when things from the unconscious start to come up, because you're very much in your head, so you're very conscious. And that's no criticism. I live far too much in my head as well. So I need to do things like, meditate or something like that to get out of that. And I probably don't do it anywhere near as much as I should. But this would be helpful. Getting into that space will help you, because it's kind of like a different layer of your mind, the subconscious. So you have a very powerful mind, but you're very much in the conscious level. But I think it's also saying that you will see signs in things like dreams and so forth. And you may see, you might see, like somebody walking ahead of you and you see the back of the person, and it might give you a sense of, well, what direction are they going in? I want to follow them. Or they've got their back turned to me, so that's not the person. So using kind of visual symbols could be helpful. Okay, we're going to also do just a couple of planetary pairings before we close out the reading. So firstly, Mercury and Neptune. The communication energy, parrot will help a lot with this. A lot about breaking through the illusions and not having the sad outcome when you haven't done that is about communicating to get clarity. There's a lot here about do that rather than just sit in your mind and brood about it, like communicate. And Moon and Mars. Then you align your actions with your emotions. And you do need to connect your actions a bit more with your emotions. You are, as I say, you're very much in your mind. But use your mind to break through the illusions, and then use the moon energy, the heart energy to direct you. Like what are you drawn to? What do you want to connect to? So to finish off, I said this in the introduction, but I don't know that everybody listens to the introduction. Instead of just drawing a card from an oracle deck to bring it together, I'm actually going to draw 5 tarot cards. And I'm going to ask you, if you haven't already done it from the introduction, to think of a number between 1 and 5. Because although this is a collective reading and I can't do thousands of different ones for every individual, it can get a little bit more personal by saying that depending upon what number you choose, that will be the card that brings it all together for you. So if you haven't already done that, pause and think of a number, or just think of one instantly, because I'm about to lay down 5 cards from a different tarot deck, and I'm going to talk about how I think for each of those, if you've chosen it, what that means bringing it all together. So for number 1, 7 of Wands reverse. For number 2, 7 of Pentacles reverse. For pile number 3, Knight of Swords. That's turning that around. That's interesting. For pile number 4, 4 of Pentacles. And for pile number 5, 10 of Cups reversed. All right. So if you chose pile number 1, what brings this all together is understanding that this is going to take a bit of courage, because when you're in your mind and you know you've got this excellent mind, it might be a bit lonely sometimes, but you can feel you're always going for perfection. But you actually have to have the courage to test it out and try it. And like to just go with passion rather than just the mind. So really go to the moon, Mars thing. Let your emotions drive your actions a little bit more. If you chose pile 2, one of your focuses may be on what will grow. And one of the things you actually have that could work well for you with the Knight of Swords reverse is that you're very patient. So it's sort of like you are prepared to like wait to see something grow. But I think the problem is, like there's a couple of things with this actually. One is that it's maybe you worry too much about what the seed is and you never plant it because you're still waiting for the perfect. The other thing is that this is being shown as bonsai. So I wonder whether it's also saying, oddly enough, even though you're like feeling like you should have this grand fated relationship, you're limiting it so much that you're keeping what that is small. Like there's something much more that you can manifest with this when you actually start to realize how the thing that protects you, which is your great mind, is also limiting you. For those who chose number 3 with the Knight of Swords, it's just saying, just kind of like go a bit quicker and don't overthink things. Like your real thing is that you overthink. You're kind of the step towards the block. And I feel for this, it's almost like for those who can just get it and start to let go of the analysis and just go and experience life in the way that the Knight of Swords upright will do, it's almost like that becomes the breakthrough rather than the 5 of Pentacles. So you can move very quickly from feeling like you always end up alone to feeling like you're heading in the right direction. For not pile number 4, but for those who chose number 4, for you want to get a good solid foundation before you make any decisions. So we're moving the 3 of Pentacles earlier that was around friendship into like, what is a solid foundation? Don't even start thinking about whether someone's your great love or your twin soul or whatever it might be until you feel like there's a solid foundation there. That's going to be a really big clue for you. And so again, it's more like, what's the evidence? Are they reliable? Is there a sort of sense of joint planning, all that kind of thing. And for those who chose number 5, there's some past emotional energy you need to let go of. Now, this could be patterns that you learnt in your family that you need to let go of, or it could just be that you're still carrying something from past loves. What I would say is if you felt, I had a divine counterpart and I lost them, my guess is they weren't that. It's just that they fit your criteria the best. And so it's like you need to let go of that to be able to move forward. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Tower. And as I said in the introduction, it's like to be fairly big when it's the Tower. With the Mystic Maiden's Love Tarot, there could be a hint in the title. This could be about love. Doesn't have to be, though. We are going to look at the life area that it's touching. But otherwise, I feel that this is a lot in the heart energy. Heart and what is core to us, because there's a lot of colouring in this deck that is either green, which is kind of heart chakra, and sort of red to orange, which is kind of like your root to the sacral kind of chakra. So I think there's something about that that probably unconsciously drew you, unless you do know that there's like a big change going on and you see a lot of potential at the moment for a breakthrough. What is interesting though is that these cards were underneath. I didn't know what they were. This card is the block and this card is the breakthrough. And you would almost think that they should be the other way around. So this in itself is interesting. There's some very big aha moment, lightning strike, big change that I think is meant to make you sort of, what it looks like is, the block is actually success and victory. And it's like the breakthrough is slowing down to reassess what you need to do. It almost looks like there's something about this is unsustainable. So one way that I could read this, and we are going to look at what area of life, but say this is around career. It could be that you are doing extremely well, but it's not necessarily what you're meant to do. You might be able to use the skills in a different way, and it was probably useful. You're very good at something, but it's like slow down and work out whether it is what you want to do because it doesn't feel sustainable. So if you were a workaholic, it could be like, you know what, you need to slow down a bit. The breakthrough is to understand that eventually all that success can become a breakdown. So there's something like that potentially, or of course correct. Like you're doing extremely well. Your family think it's wonderful. They're all lawyers, and it looks like you're going to be a lawyer, but you really want to be a poet, and like you need to slow down. So there's something like that, and it could be that something very external occurs that makes you reassess what success is, and like it's still in a similar area though, I've got to say, because you've got wands. So there is something very kind of action-oriented, ambition, charismatic, performative about it. So it's not really saying that you're way off course, but it's like slow down before you end up sort of somewhere you don't ultimately want to be, almost seems to be the energy. But it kind of depends what this is really about. So what we're going to do is we're firstly going to use the Akashic Truth Oracle, and we're just going to see what area of life it's in, because that might sort of help us understand this rather curious set of cards. So the area of life is career and business. Yeah, it felt like career. So this is about who you are in the world, career, vocation, personal brand, that kind of thing. And it just feels like, the block is the amount of success. And like it really felt like, like I have come across this with people in their career, and I feel it myself sometimes too. Like when you're really good at something, you could keep doing it, but it's really not what you want to do. And it's almost like something, like you almost need an external thing, like suddenly that job isn't there anymore and it forces you to do something slightly different. And that's, just slow down and like kind of reassess what you're doing. But let's see what the advice from the Akashic Truth Oracle is around career and business that can also help us understand what's going on as a breakthrough. A new path. You've cleared karma and now your soul is leading you to a new experience. All the steps may not seem clear just yet. Continue moving forward and the path will begin to reveal itself. Yeah, I really think something is occurring. Like there could be a new opportunity that's suddenly coming along, and so the new path is being cleared. It could be that something forces you out of a job that you were successful at and you need to rethink what to do with that. But I think there is also a thing about understanding that you don't have to have all the answers instantly, so you can take your time. I also feel like it's not a huge move. The other reason I don't think it's a huge move, apart from the fact that it's wands and wands, is that Knight of Wands upright is classically the moving home card. So it is about movement away often. And when it's reversed, it's not necessarily movement away. So if you were a lawyer and you're doing really well, maybe something happens in the company that makes you have to rethink, well, what do I do next? And I need to take a new path. And it might still be using your legal skills, but it might be in a slightly different way. So there's sort of something here about the block is actually how good you were at what you were doing before. And it's the thing that might stop you from moving forward to the new path. But there is a path that is close. That would, it's not a huge shift, but it's an important shift for you to really get the breakthrough energy. So let's see a little bit more about the block, because as I say, this is a curious thing. We're going to use tarot to look at the block, and then we're going to look at the breakthrough energy, and then we're going to see what would surprise you about this. So a little bit more about the block. Death card reversed, Page of Wands reversed, Knight of Cups, Ten of Swords, Eight of Cups. Okay. I do think this is saying that whether it's because you're successful or whether you're just someone who would be successful on whatever you did, there's a kind of a lack of choice operating at the moment. Now, that's interesting. Speaking as someone who did HR as my career for a large chunk of my life, one of the things that I used to really observe is that the choices you make you to a large extent. So particularly in career. So if you sort of start doing a particular sort of job, you then tend to get offered the next job up the ladder in that and so forth. And to some degree, how high you can go depends on how much you can move into generalist management or into other things as you go along, because there'll always be a ceiling. And success, therefore, can take you eventually into a cul-de-sac or a dead-end road. Even if you continue to make good money or whatever, it's that the growth and the new energies and new opportunities can kind of limit each time you make a choice. So I do think that you've been really successful at something. And I think that it is something you enjoy and you do get good offers out of it. It's not, you could keep doing this, pile 3, and probably for quite a while continue to move up the ladder, get higher salaries, get great bonuses, whatever it is. And you would enjoy doing it. But you're going to fall out of love with it more and more and more, because it's sort of like it ceases to be a challenge. It ceases to be creative. It gets like, oh yeah, I could do this in my sleep. So you need this, but you need this. It's like you need the tower energy to come along and just kind of pull the rug out from under you, because it's comfortable. It's not exciting, but it means you don't have to choose. It kind of just naturally happens. You just naturally move up the ladder. You need something to do that so that you can shift away from it, to determine emotionally you could shift away from it and try something new. So there's definitely something better you could do. And as I say, it's not that different, but it is saying that you really, success can be its own form of trap. So then what about the breakthrough? The breakthrough is shifting course a bit, but not too much, after some sort of tower moment or tower realization. So let's see a little bit more about that. Page of Pentacles reversed, 3 of Cups, 9 of Cups reversed, Lovers reversed, 2 of Swords reversed. This has a lot to do with people, I have to say. Like, I think for you, you've been very successful and it's been very natural. The shift has more to do with people and finding the right connections to do it. There is a practical planning thing that would be helpful, and it may be slowing you down. When the shift occurs, it's slowing you down to make sure that you do that. So there is something practical that you can do, and planning around it could be helpful. Taking the time to do that, because it actually it sort of says, because you've sort of like almost had a dream run, or you're just very naturally good at something, you haven't actually sat down to really work out what would be your plan. Like people who are not as naturally talented in whatever this is would probably do that. So slowing down to do that would be good. You can have a better understanding about what it was that you want and celebrate. You're kind of dissipating. It's like an understanding that you're dissipating your ideal. It's also possible that whatever this shift is may not seem ideal to start with. You may not have the connections that you feel that you need, and you may feel that the options are limited to do it. But it's like this breakthrough allows you to do it. You will be able to find good connections, but it's not necessarily starting at ground floor level again. But it's like you've built up a lot of goodwill, a lot of recognition. So it's actually a bit like being a big fish on a small pond, and then you jump into a big pond and then you're the little fish in a big pond to start with. You've got everything you need, but it slows down some of the trajectory, but it does allow you to plan for something in the longer term. But you've got to connect with new people, and there may be a feeling there isn't a lot of choice around that. You've just got to kind of go with the flow. So there's an adjustment around it, but it's saying that's also why to slow down. Because the adjustment is connecting with the right people, doing, understanding the new environment, understanding all of that stuff, and planning what you want to do with it. So what will surprise you the most about this breakthrough? Because it feels like it's kind of a little bit throwing you out of your comfort zone, but you're more than capable of dealing with this, and that's what you're supposed to learn. Pile 3, you're supposed to realize you're more than capable of it. But what could be surprising about this? 5 of Swords, Queen of Cups, Ace of Pentacles, 10 of Pentacles. Okay. There is definitely something about either your upbringing, or, like having been long-term in an industry or an organization or something. There's something about that. And it's like it's saying what is surprising for you to learn is to really open up the next great potential. You have to understand, that you've reached all you can where you are in real terms. Even if there's 2 or 3 more promotions, it's like, yeah, you could probably get them, but eventually you're going to end up in that cul-de-sac. That sometimes we have to know when to move away so that we will ultimately be more true to ourselves. And that allows you to do something new. But there's a recognition of what you've achieved, but that needs to be, you need to put the cherry on top and then move on with that. Like, I think you get surprised of like, oh, okay, I actually do need to shift this somehow. So that's what we're talking about. So I felt with breakthroughs, there's always healing. So we're going to look at healing, focus, and empowerment. We're going to look at 2 lots of healing and then the focus and empowerment for each of them. So this is a weird one because I think you're very successful. I think you're very good at what you do. I think you're very talented. But I do think that something is going to force this. What might appear to be a crisis. So it will be actually good. It will be fine. But it was necessary because you're just too comfortable. So what do you need to heal around this block and then coming into the breakthrough? Risks. Yeah, it's like being more happy to take the risk because you really haven't. And I don't mean to downplay what you've done. You probably had your struggles and challenges to get where you are and to get recognised. It's just that you're really in the flow with it now. It's easy. But you're also just starting to get a little bit bored. So being happy with a few risks is good. What else do you need to heal? Addiction. Okay, now I don't think this is addiction in terms of sort of like substances. I think this is addiction to success and to recognition. So being able to let that go and start again and build up the thing again and see it as a new challenge is important. So what do you need to focus on to better heal the risk management side of you? Plants. Now that's interesting with the slowing down energy and with the Ace of Pentacles. Looking at this as this will take time. Like the next stage of what you do, it's similar to what you do. And it's got more potential because it can get to the Knight rather than the 6. But it's got to grow over time. You've got to slow down to let it grow and see what it is. So a risk, you can't assess that in the first 5 minutes. So allowing it to grow. And in terms of breaking the addiction of the recognition and the comfort level, focus on divination. So if you get a bit stuck with this, using these sort of things, doing tarot readings or things like that, like anything like that, you have a psychic ability that can connect you and can make you understand. And if you're in the midst of like, oh my God, feels like a crisis because, I'm used to this and now I'm kind of like not connected to my supply, so to speak, divination can start to show you why this is happening. A message of empowerment around the risk taking. Refusing to conform dismantles the world's fear-based system. Courageously be you. So this is to be more of who you are rather than just being recognised for being really talented. So this is, and that actually can push the boundaries in whatever this is. And then in terms of dealing with the addiction to the success and recognition that you have at the moment, check to be sure that the stories you tell yourself are at least helpful to you. Yeah. Like, that's fine. You can sort of say, I'm so successful and people really, really see me as a star where I am and all that kind of thing. And that's all great. But is it really taking you to the next step? Is it really taking you where you're meant to go? Okay. So let's get you a couple of spirit guides, some animal guides to help as well. Horse. Galloping toward freedom. Like, they see it as that. So maybe not galloping, maybe kind of cantering. Is cantering slow? I'm not really good with horses. Cantering, gradually sort of like doing a bit of a horse walk along, just gradually getting there, but heading towards, it is heading towards a new type of victory, but the victory is freedom, more autonomy, more self-directed energy rather than just the approval of others. And dragonfly, breaking free from illusion. Yeah. Like this is getting a clarity on how far you can go. And there's a lot about freedom here. Getting freedom to really express who you are rather than what everybody expects or needs of you. That has been very successful to date, and so it's understanding why it would be a little bit hard, but this is meant to set you free. Okay. So let's see a sign or a synchronicity or a set of feelings that you'll have when you're really starting to get ready. I mean, for some of you, it's just going to be something happens and you're going to know, okay, this is now the opportunity. But for others, it might be a little bit more subtle, and it's a very big shift internally towards freedom and liberation, the very Uranian energy that you get with the Tower. So let's just see. So this could be something you see in dreams. It could be something you see synchronistically. It could just be the feelings that are described with the deck, but it's just meant to be a sign for you. Stove. Love, romance, new ideas, creativity, passion, opportunity. Love might do it. Like for some of you, the breakthrough might be, you've been doing really well with something and then you fall in love and they live in another state or something, and you've got to think about, I need to kind of, I doubt that it's moving, so it's probably not the best analogy, but it's just an analogy. I've got to move or shift because of that, or you're doing really well at work and you need to move somewhere else in the industry because you fall in love with someone that you're with and your organisation doesn't think about it. So it doesn't think well of relationships. So it could be, that's doing it. Otherwise, like the stove, dreaming about a stove, so seeing stoves, thinking about cooking and thinking about what makes you feel passionate as opposed to just recognised. All of these things kind of like are waking up in you. That's waking up the energy that you need to do the shift. It is going to be a shift upwards. It is going to be a leveling up, but it's from a pretty high base, and that's why it feels like a bit risky to even try it. Okay, let's get you some astrology. Let's get you some planetary pairings as well. So we have Mars and Neptune. You're getting the clarity on your ambition. What do you really want to do? And getting the ideal as well. This can be going towards the ideal, but it's like, what illusions do you have about ambition? Getting clarity on those and working out what you really want. And Venus, yeah, moving towards something that you love. For some of you, there is a love connection, which is interesting. There is something about love associated with this with some of you. But otherwise, it's getting more and connecting to what your heart is and what you really want to do. Because I don't think it's a massive change, and I think it's using very similar skills, but it's more free for you in some way. Okay, so just to finish off, in the introduction, and not all of you listened to the introduction, so I'm needing to say this again in case you didn't. I said that what I'm going to do to finish this off, instead of just using an oracle deck and drawing a card to synthesize it, I'm actually using a different tarot, and I'm going to lay out 5 cards. And basically, I need you to choose a number between 1 and 5. So if you've already done that, that's fine, you're ready. If not, then do it now or pause, think it through, see what comes up to you, because those 5 cards will represent those 5 numbers, and for each, whatever you choose is going to be the consolidating message. So I'm going to give a slightly different, 5 different consolidating messages to try and make the collective reading a little bit more personal. So I'm just shuffling now to get the 5 cards. So pause now if you need to. Okay, so for number 1, we have Queen of Wands. For number 2, we have 2 of Wands. For number 3, we have the 8 of Pentacles reversed. For number 4, we have the 4 of Pentacles reversed. And for number 5, we have the Chariot. Okay. If you chose number 1, a lot of this has to do with you truly self-actualizing. You're very, as I say, very talented with what you've done, and it would be easy to keep doing what you do, but you won't reach your full potential. So this is about breaking you out of a comfort zone so you reach your full potential. And you are going to do it. I think it is saying that the breakthrough is going to take you there quite quickly. After slowing down at first to reacclimatize yourself to the new opportunity, you're going to hit that point a lot quicker, and you'll realize, like, oh wow, this did turbocharge it. I thought I was going to potentially be almost going backwards and have to build it up again, but it was actually really quick. For those who choose pile 2, this is an initial choice on a new path. But the thing is, you do have a choice. That's part of the reason for slowing down. You don't really have the choice to move out of your comfort zone, but once you've done that, then you have a choice. There's at least a couple of options about ways to do it. So give yourself time to consider it. For those who chose number 3, you are a master at whatever this is. This is why you are already very successful. It's also why you can expand what you do with it. You've almost gone beyond the conventional way of using it into something else. When I see the 8 of Pentacles reversed, I think of artists who maybe study under the masters And then they get to a point where they've learned all the technique and they've mastered it, and that's when they get to be original. So there's something here about being original and free for you. So if you were an amazing, I don't know, stock market analyst or something like that, and you've done really well and you're recognized that way, it might be sort of like branching out and taking that into a large corporation or starting your own business or something like that. But whatever it is, the reason this is occurring and the reason you're being forced out of your comfort level is that you actually have reached mastery, and this is the only way to really prove it. For those who chose number 4, you need to deconstruct something in what the foundations around what you want to do with this to be able to move forward and use it properly. So it could be, if you've been used to being a really great employee, maybe you need to deconstruct that and think about what it would be to be a great business owner. If it was that you were in, I don't know, defense lawyering or whatever, it might be have a bit of a think about prosecution. Like it just sort of depends, but there is something in the foundation you need to shift to really, and that's what you should slow down and work out to really make sure you're heading in the right direction. And if you chose number 5, you are heading towards something destined, but that's why you need to slow down, because ease can feel like destiny, and sometimes it's just taking you into a rut. And that's the risk that you've got at the moment. You may in fact feel that you were doing what you were destined to do, and you're not far off, but to get to the true destiny, you need to slow down and think about it and make some other choices. So there's definitely, the breakthrough is the time to slow down and reconsider, but those are the different ways that this might manifest as a synthesis for pile 3. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.